Good afternoon. I'm back with another short story based on a random title taken from The Hat. This is actually beginning to work out for me. It wasn't for a while, I wasn't really getting it. But now it seems to be working as a technique, so I'll keep doing it. This is story number 168, and it's called Grief Thief. You don't need me to tell you that the pain of losing your only child is unimaginable. Before it happens, it's a thought too awful to contemplate. After it happens, the cliche applies. It's a nightmare from which you can never awaken. I've dreamed about my son's motorcycle accident 50 times, only to wake with a horrible realization that this grim imagining is in truth a memory. I'm alone in my torment, unpartnered, my parents long since dead, and friends unable to offer more than the usual pale platitudes, periods of listening or respectful silence. I've considered suicide, but that feels disrespectful, a dishonour to Mark's name. He was always full of life, a unique teenager who leapt out of bed at 7 a.m, often knocking on my bedroom door to get me up, and to my computer. I work from home. Mark's other father, Josh, left me 5 years ago, and I couldn't even find an address to send a funeral invitation to. True, I'm Mark's birth father, but Josh was there from his 4th birthday onwards. I'm surprised that he hasn't answered my emails. The last one bounced back mailbox full. I didn't know that that was still possible in this age of terabytes and petabytes. So, how to cope? Perhaps foster a child and hope to replace the vibrant, funny, intelligent, and kind young man whom I knew would far surpass me in most aspects of life. Impossible. Nobody could replace Mackie, as we'd nicknamed him. My son had even surprised me with his sexuality. Brought up by 2 gay dads, I'd sort of assumed that he'd follow suit. Mark turned out to be profoundly heterosexual, on his 3rd serious girlfriend by the time he was 19. 3 months after his death, every day is a slog. I rarely rise before 10, and work is a painful, grinding chore when it should be a delight. I get paid to design beauty product packaging for a living, for Christ's sake, and it's well paid. I've come to believe that this pain was something I just have to live with, like a stunted 3rd arm or a perpetual migraine, until something strange popped into my Augur feed. I'm walking down North Down Road in Margate, noticing how many vacant premises the challenging winter season has created, when Augur begins throwing fake shop fronts up over my reality. All of them have ornate Art Deco signs proclaiming "Grief Thief" and the slogan, "We'll steal your pain away." I blink rapidly 3 times to tell Augur to click on the hollow link. After a few minutes of reading and listening to the AR sales pitch, delivered with plummy sincerity by a well-known British actor and dame, I get it. Grief Thief is a service, available to those with neurolaces, that targets and removes the pain of loss and grief. It does so by eradicating all memory of one's loved one's existence, not instantaneously, but gradually over a couple of weeks, to avoid brain trauma. It is available on discount with an NHS membership, and is recommended only for those individuals whose lives have been rendered unimaginable by loss, as the dame put it. I've always believed in social health care, so I've kept up my NHS payments, which are taken monthly from my paycheck. I realise I might be eligible, and potentially the perfect candidate. I blink on the appropriate links, and set up a consultation for the following Thursday. The Grief Thief counsellor is painfully empathetic, handling me with extreme care. Nevertheless, their application process is rigorous. Several psychometric tests, a neurolace scan, and 3 therapy sessions in preparation for Go Live Day, as they neutrally describe it. I pass all tests with flying colours, and I sign the documentation to declare I've understood all the implications of the process. I'm told that I need to keep a diary, writing 50 to 150 words during each day of the 12-day grief removal process. I'm also informed that this diary is for my GF counsellor and supervisors, and not for me. Once I submit each day's entry, it's removed from my mem store. I won't be able to recall it. This all makes perfect clinical sense. I hesitate over the final sign-off, the check-out moment. Is it immoral to eradicate the memory of a child? I remind myself that both Mark and I are, or were, atheists. We don't believe in a life after death. Mark is gone. He can no longer feel offended. I've spoken to my close friends and family too. Though they'll have their own memories, photos and keepsakes of Mark, they've promised to conceal these from me, so that I'm never tempted to ask, "Who is this handsome lad?" and face an awkward silence. This week I haven't shaved, showered, or changed my clothes. I'm a stumbling, reeking, numb shadow of my former self. I need this, simply to survive. It's what he would have wanted. They tell me the GF app will install from my neurolace while I sleep. It will begin to run in my subconscious, and the dreams and memories will simply fade away. Day 1. The GF people came at noon. I'd been up, showered and changed for almost an hour. I begged them to let me keep the paintings he did when he was 5. "I'll probably just assume they're from a nephew or something," I protested. An operative shook his head slowly and sadly. I let go of the papers in my hands. They took it all: photos from my social media, mem store, and even the printouts, school reports, and written assignments I'd kept stashed in a cardboard box. They turned over my house like policemen, although far more solicitous and tidier in their rifling. I know this is an important part of it, but this stage feels too abrupt. Maybe it should be revised for future clients. First, take the artwork, then the writings, then the photos. I don't know. There's no painless way to proceed, is there? Day 2. Now the fading begins. With nothing but memories to go on, I'm already losing the precise contours of Mark's face. Sharper than my own, and more like my poor ex-wife Melanie's. I remember how painful her decline and demise were, even when we were long separated, platonic friends. Cancer is a miserable way to leave this world. Mark was terrible at all sports, except for snooker. He had an astonishing degree of focus and precision. His artwork was meticulous too. Those manga-style birthday cartoons he did of Josh and I. Odd I can remember those with more clarity than I can his hands drawing them. Day 3. I can reconstruct his features, but I have to do it one part at a time. Oval, hazel eyes, floppy fringe, then the aquiline nose, then the cheekbones, rarely without a peachy fuzz of 2-day growth. The lips are last. He had Melanie's feminine Cupid's bow. That's what made him most popular at school. The girls didn't know whether to kiss him or try out their lipstick on him. Sometimes they'd do both. Odd, but his voice is slipping away quicker than his image. Day 4. I don't feel the pain of Mark's loss so acutely. It still hurts, but it's more of an ache than a relentless stabbing pain. It's like the memory of a house you grew up in as a child, now demolished and gone, a charging park or supermarket in its place. When I look up Augur, an error message accompanies any attempt to recall his face. I'm told those will stop, and Augur will no longer respond to my prompts vis-a-vis my dead son. My dead son. How can I utter those words without breaking down? Day 5. His voice is gone, and his face is fading fast. Mac, we used to call him, I think. Funny, but his weird spidery walk, his gait, remains as clear as day. I spot it in people on the street. It's like my mind is reaching desperately for whatever anchor points it can find. I'm performing the role of Augur now. I'm creating an augmented reality, painting my son's image over the bodies of unwitting strangers. I also remember his muddy shoes on the carpet, his comic books, and his terrible croaky singing voice. What was his favourite band, though? Something retro. Talking Heads? Guided by Voices? Radiohead? Day 6. I had an unexpected visitor. Josh's cousin, Maggie, apparently. I never met her, never even heard of her. He'd given her my address long ago, I suppose. The problem is, she's crazy. She thinks Josh is dead. I show her the letters, handwritten in his handwriting, sent after his supposed demise. She leaves confused and disturbed, suddenly no longer keen to catch up and maybe visit some of the old haunts. I don't know what she wanted from me. Sorry, that's irrelevant. I'm supposed to be thinking about Mac. How tall was he? Maybe 5'11"? He had a kind of angular face, more like Mel's than mine. I believe he was well behaved, kind of unusual for a teenager. I think he rode a motorbike. I wonder what happened to it. Day 7. Mac must have died, or else I wouldn't have signed up to the service. It's weird that I can't remember how. My friend Jill calls. She wants to meet up, wants to take me to camp or the Sundowner. Says I need to meet someone new. When I tell her how quickly Mac's memory is fading, there's silence on the line. His name was Mark, she says, then hangs up. I'm crippled with embarrassment, but determined to continue. My friends will understand, in time. Day 8. This wasn't a good day. Something came flooding back. An argument about him buying a motorcycle. Josh thought it was a terrible idea, but I was in favour. Although my son, Mark, was glad to have my support, I couldn't make out his face as he thanked me for the gift. A vintage Triumph Bonneville, exactly the model he'd wanted. I knew he was grateful, jubilant even, and that Josh would come around, so why was this memory so freighted with sadness? Lost to me now, his face, his walk, his voice, his preferences, his friends, and his girlfriends. I can still remember him trying and failing to work a hula hoop when he was 7, weirdly enough, and several other memories from childhood. Day 9. The phone has been ringing a lot, an unrecognisable number. I'm afraid to answer it. You told me that there might be people who wouldn't understand this process and might try to disrupt it. Activists, maybe even unsympathetic friends or relatives. You said you'd try to block such contacts where possible, but it isn't foolproof. I have decided to change my number and hand it out now only to the most understanding people in my life. There are probably less than half a dozen of them. I had a son called Mackie, or Mackie with an IE. Strange name. Sounds more like an ice cream brand. Probably Mel's idea. Day 10. I'm told I'm trying to forget someone, my child who died. I can acknowledge this is a truth, but weirdly it causes me no pain, only a kind of emptiness, like an unsatisfied hunger, an experience I really wanted to have but forgot to. I think their name began with an M, or maybe an N. Day 11. I guess this process is almost over. I don't even know who I'm supposed to be grieving for. My guess is a lover, but I could be wrong. I don't think it's Josh. Speaking of which, an abusive card came today. A postcard. I didn't know those still existed. No postmark or stamp, so I guess hand-delivered. An activist. A photo of me and a slim man with a trim beard. Josh. Between us sits a young boy. He's dressed like a cartoon cowboy. Maybe Woody from the Toy Story franchise. Augur offers me no more information. The boy might be a nephew of Josh, but I'm not sure. Everyone is happy in the image, which I guess the sender must have downloaded and had made into this bespoke card. Only 4 words on the back. How fucking dare you? Day 12. So, I complete this and hit send and that's it. Whatever it is, I guess. I was trying to forget someone. Maybe someone who left me or died. A lover. It all feels a bit lame. But you keep sending me dire warnings about failure to submit. Your operative, who came for the postcard, was kind of sinister. What were you trying to protect me from? Some random activists? No matter who I'm forgetting, I'm stronger than you think. And yet, something about that photo. I didn't hit submit on day 12. Instead, I called the Grief Thief emergency hotline and begged them to reverse the process. It took a full 30-minute counselling session before they agreed. The boy had Mel's lips. That could only mean one thing. Nobody voluntarily forgets their own child, do they? They told me I'd been experiencing unimaginable pain, and I'd been suicidal and heavily medicated. Weird that I have no memory of the pain either. I don't know what they meant when they warned me reversal isn't an exact science. It's possible both your subjects will return. Both my subjects? The following day I dreamed about a family, 2 men, very much in love, and their son. Mark was his name, the child of the older, jowly man, me, adopted, in a sense, by the man with the trim beard and twinkling eyes. Mark, my son, and Josh, my lover, who did not, in fact, leave me. In truth, I killed him. Twice. Josh, I mean. The first time, driving drunk, without checking he was buckled in. We skidded on black ice and hit a road sign. 6 months suspended sentence and a year's driving ban. I'd wanted a death penalty. But I still had Mark, beautiful, empathetic, loving Mark, who'd looked after me so admirably after Josh's passing, who had brought home the grief thief flyer from the health centre where he had worked as a DPE, data prompt engineer. And now he's back. They both are, in a sense. Grief thief weren't able to restore everything, but they tell me my memories will sharpen and clarify in time. My friends and family are helping. I feel a growing, swelling wash of fresh pain with every new memory. And shame, a deep and abiding sense of transgression, that I ever tried to eradicate them from my personal history. How fucking dare I? I'm drenched in grief now, more than I ever thought possible. But you know something? It's sort of beautiful. And there you go. A little sort of science fiction story called Grief Thief. And yes, it is a little bit indebted to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I'll admit it. But there you go. And I will now choose the title for the next story that I'm going to write. Now, I wrote these 6 months ago, so I can't remember any of them, especially this one. Okay. Wildernesses. Wildernesses. That could be all sorts of things. So there you go. That's my next story title. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it, like it, make a comment, broadcast it to the world. I'd love it if one day one of my videos suddenly went out to like 100,000 people. It's very unlikely, but you never know. You guys could make that happen. I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.